Welcome back to the Ambassadors of Gaming. I'm one in your army of hosts, Ambassador Michael, and today I'm going to discuss with you another game that we didn't get a chance to review, so it's one of the best games of the generation. We are handpicking some of the best games in the lead up to the fall 2020 of next gen, and kind of documenting some stuff we didn't get a chance to go over, more in-depth look at some of the games that came out throughout the generation. Today's game is Destiny 1. That's right, vanilla Destiny 1. I think this was the best iteration of it to choose for best games of the generation because I think it's kind of the initial rollout and idea and plan for what Destiny was. And while I think we can all pretty much agree that Destiny got better as it went on, eventually, kind of being its best iteration currently with Destiny 2, and kind of everything they've finally started getting right there, and just expanding upon that base. Destiny 1 was the first game to me that I picked up for my PlayStation 4 in the fall of September 2014. I picked it up at launch, not knowing anything about it, just saying, hey, it's Bungie. Bungie made Halo, so if they made Halo, this must be good. And picked it up, not knowing anything about it. Started playing it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. You can play this with your friends. That's really awesome. Maybe I'll introduce this to Adam and a couple of my other friends. And I actually ended up introducing it to Chris during the second expansion, and then he didn't really fall in love with it till a little bit beforehand, before Taken King. So, but Destiny 1 Vanilla was I think our first look really into how live services would shape this generation. Destiny 1 became kind of the template game for everybody to kind of want to make. We saw, The Division, which was pretty close behind Destiny 1, so I don't think that they were copying as much as they had a similar idea. So those two games came out pretty close to each other, whereas Anthem very clearly seemed like an afterthought of like, oh, this is a thing now, we should do this. And so the reason why I picked Destiny 1 specifically is because it set that trend, for better or for worse, and it also showed what games could be like this generation, where we're upgrading them, we're patching them, they're dealing with balancing issues all the time, expansions come and go, and they may break or fine-tune a game. Certain expansions actually made Destiny worse. Some of them have made it better. But when you talk about vanilla Destiny as a whole, there was a lot to it that they got right, and a lot they got wrong. The biggest thing they got wrong was the loot grind. The infamous loot cave was a thing that happened because the drop rates were really bad. Equipment was really hard to get. The raid, until it came out about a month later, people didn't have anything to do once they beat the main storyline, which you could beat in roughly 8 hours if you really were kind of going through it slowly. And so the issue was, we're just grinding for strikes, we're grinding for new gear, and you're getting like a piece of gear that's a little bit higher but not really that much, and then everybody kind of ended up looking the same because they all had to use the same armor. And so it was a whole ordeal, it was a whole nightmare, it was a whole mess. But and when it came to the gameplay side of it, Destiny was great, and it still is. The gunplay is really good, the RPG elements to it are really fun, and they're really integrated in terms of the classes and their abilities and all that kind of stuff. Grenades, all that sort of stuff is really fun. It's really great. It's just that as a service, it wasn't good. But we're not talking just about that. So at its core, it is one of the best games of this generation because it's a trendsetter, because it had a good foundation and a good base. It was just mismanaged. And I think that's why I want to highlight it so much here, is it's not that Bungie didn't know how to craft a game. They didn't know how to craft a game with a tail like that for what they intended to do with it. And some of that may have been Activision's fault, some of it may be Bungie's. We're still kind of figuring that out now, as Bungie's just now kind of taking the reins fully for Destiny 2. So it's just a matter of the fact that it was this large idea, large IP, and it was mismanaged in a way that prevented it from being probably one of the best games ever made, if I'll be frank. And I know that may come across as like hoity-toity, but Activision dumped a shitload of money into this game. Bungie spent tons of years developing this, redoing it, redeveloping it. The engine they scrapped and redid, I believe, because there was issues with the engine. So the time, energy, effort, and money that went into this game cannot be overstated, and it wasn't like they just threw it out half-assed. They worked their asses off to get this game out, and I really did enjoy it for a very long time. But it also made me realize pretty early on that these life service type games were not for me. I fell out of Destiny after the second expansion, and so it was tough at the very beginning when I'm like, oh, there's just the same thing every week over and over and over and over and over again, and I don't like grinding like that. And so if that's up to you, if that's what you like to do, Chris loves it, so he's a big fan. And again, I'm falling back into the territory of criticizing its service aspects and not so much the gameplay core aspects and the mission structure and the world and all that kind of stuff. I think Bungie has a pretty clear idea of what their original goal was with the universe. So the story and the world are actually really interesting. It never fully connects the way you would hope it would, like Halo does, where it gets flushed out and fully explored. A lot of stuff is hidden within the Grimoire and kind of stuff like that. But if you just take it at its face value and you just play the game as an 8-hour experience, start to finish, you just play all the missions, play a couple of the strikes, you maybe play the raid or two to get some of the story aspects, and then you bounce. It's an enjoyable experience, honestly. That's how I handled Destiny 2. I played the main campaign and I was like, this was fun, I enjoyed this, but I'm done now. And I just stopped playing the game. Because I don't have any want or desire to sit there and grind. So its core aspects as a game make it one of the best games of the generation. It becoming a template and a staple. And honestly, I think it's probably the best live service game. As we saw, Anthem was pretty disastrous and awful. The Division 1, I think, had some character to it. Me and Daryl have a little bit of disagreement regarding the Division 2. I didn't purchase it. He bought it. He liked it a lot. I just think it was way too copy and paste versus how Destiny 2 kind of overhauled the original Destiny experience. So again, I think that Destiny is the outlier, and that's why I chose it to be one of the best games of the generation. And frankly, it's been some of the most fun I've had with my friends during this generation is playing Destiny 1, doing stuff together with them. So that's ultimately why it's on my list here. It's why we're naming it, we're discussing it. Let us know what you think. Finding vanilla Destiny 1 clips is a huge pain in the ass. I don't have any anymore, so as you've seen throughout the video, I've had to take from others and YouTube clips and stuff like that, and trailers and all that. So let us know if you had played original Destiny, vanilla Destiny. If you hadn't, let us know what you think of Destiny in the state that you've played it in, if you've played it. And if not, tell us, what you think about this whole live service MMO kind of stuff. Until next time, friends, I'm Ambassador Michael. Thank you for joining me for another game. And this was Destiny 1.